everybody. Dan Schinder here at NAMM 2014 on Drum Talk TV. And I'm here with Joe Lamond, who is the CEO and president of NAMM, which just sounds so daunting. I can only imagine what it takes to put all this together. How are you, first of all?
I'm really good. And what my title doesn't convey is, though, first and foremost, I'm a drummer.
And that is what is most important to us, the heartbeat of the band and any music at all. So first of all, talk to us a little bit about drumming. How long have you been a drummer? How'd you get started? Tell us a little bit about your rhythmic journey, Joe.
Probably like a lot of your audience. I mean, I probably was born wanting to be a drummer. I just didn't realize it till I was about 5 or 6. There was nothing else but drumming, always has been. And so, you know, like a lot of us, I pursued the career and I actually played professionally for many years, and while at the same time learned a bunch of business skills by working in this industry and retail and touring and tour managing and a lot of different things that all kind of culminated in me coming to work for NAMM, the trade organization that represents all these companies. And I've been CEO for almost 13 years now.
How do you like it?
You know, for a little kid from, Western New York who grew up with a dream, to be here, this week, virtually almost every famous drummer that I ever loved or ever listened to gave me a hug this week. So, you look at that, and then the ecosystem of the whole music products industry from all the different instrument types, for me to be able to represent them at this show, bring them all together, host this platform, you could say I'd be more likely to land on Mars than to have this luck, but I'm the luckiest guy in the world. So
that's cool. I can relate because we work with artists, not only from all over the world, but artists that are contemporary and new. Yeah. A lot of educators in music and drumming, but a lot of drummers I have followed for the last 40 plus years, and it's just an amazing thing, first of all, to understand how real and human and down to earth everybody is and how humble they are. And I can't say that enough about the drummers that we've been interviewing in our first year at Drum Talk TV. But it's really great, this experience where we're focusing on our series, Sprockets and Cogs, to highlight what the manufacturers do bring to the marketplace and the distributors. Just how much innovation goes into each year's iteration of different products and helping to show them what's available to the marketplace,
It's an interesting challenge when we play an instrument that is as old as mankind, right? Where do you innovate? But, from the show itself, you got to realize this is a global gathering of every instrument and sound product made. And so you've got half the show of beautiful instruments, handmade. Many have made out of natural products. Many of them have a shelf life of centuries. My great-grandkids will play some of these instruments that are debuted here today. Right. They'll last forever. They're beautiful. And so on the other side, you've got half the show that's based on technology products, where obsolescence is going to be measured in 6 months or when the next model comes out. Right. So here at the NAMM show, you've got 95,000 music, industry professionals from around the world trying to marry those two worlds. You got stuff that's going to last forever, and you've got technology that's going to last 6 months. Yet our artists, the people who, these wonderful people who make the music that has become the soundtrack of our lives, they're moving seamlessly now between technology and these traditional products. So I think what you saw at the NAMM show this year, more than ever, and it's been coming over the number of years, is that there's a merging between traditional, beautiful handmade instruments and technology. And it's making the artists so much more effective. It's making the products available to a wider number of artists because they're inexpensive, available to anyone on a smartphone or an iPad. We're witnessing right now the democratization of making music that's probably never occurred in the human history.
And that kind of ties into something that I was going to ask you about. First of all, NAMM started when? Let everybody know how old the organization is.
So NAMM, every industry has a trade association. And if you sell cars, or if you're a doctor, if you fly airplanes, there's an association for your industry. NAMM is the association for those who make and sell gear. And it started in 1901. The industry at the time was largely made up of piano dealers. NAMM was started by 52 piano dealers in New York City. And it's grown from there For a long time, NAMM members sold records through the 30s and 40s. They were the record stores. Through the 40s and 50s, they were the consumer electronics stores. You'd go there for phonographs, radios, televisions, washers and dryers. I mean, our industry has had seen nothing but huge change through the years. Now it's really more focused on music and sound products. It's instruments, it's PA equipment, it's all the accessories that go along with that. But yeah, we're 113 years old right now.
Wow. In your 13 years of being with the organization, what, other than marketing abilities with the internet advancements, other than that, what's the biggest change and the biggest pivotal point in evolution of the show itself since you've started?
Well, actually, my first NAMM show was 32 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I was a retailer, and I came when I was 21 years old. And during all that time I always worked in music stores, even if I was on tour or, doing all those other things. My parents always said, you got to have a day job. And so I took that literally and came up through the ranks to music stores. So I've been through 32 of these winter shows. And I can tell you the first one I went to was about a quarter of the size that it is now. The industry was much smaller. Now think about the changes in technology since 1983. Think about the changes in how we all shop. Went from catalogs to online to where virtually any consumer can find out anything about a product off their smartphone and order it at the same time.
Right.
So if you want to look at different periods of shifts, I can just tell you there's been nothing but massive change. I think if you look at the last 5 years in particular, we've gone through a global recession. And what we make is not integral to life in some ways. To me it is, I think, but our industry went through a very tough time since the financial crisis in 2007, 2008. So right now you're seeing in 2014, the resumption of growth. The industry is growing again. Thank God.
It's so great to hear, yeah, because it is true that this industry has really been the last to sort of dig its way out of the recession, whatever that means to you, perceived or real. The fact is that this has been the last because, like you said, it's not food, it's not oxygen, it's not fuel.
I mean, in drummers' case, a lot of us made do with what we had. We didn't maybe go buy that new drum set, but we bought a lot of accessories. We added on to our kit.
Expendables as well.
That's right. And so now you're seeing people reinvesting in new equipment, new drum sets. And now, boy, look at the products that were here this week. I would say innovations are coming in process, how they're building these drums, how the quality is. I just talked to a guy down this aisle here who is 3D printing guitars. And he told me he would make a 3D snare for me. This is that additive printing where you design anything you want in a computer.
Right.
Hit print, and then 19 hours later, I'll have a snare drum. And I can do it in any shape I want, any color I want, any material I want. I mean, those are some pretty major changes that are coming down the pike for our little industry to have 3D printing for instruments. Anyway, there's a lot of change happening.
This next one's sort of a sensitive question, but I ask you this from our audience point of view so that you can help sort of clarify some things, the purpose of NAMM and who it's for. We've lately been posting a lot on the Drum Talk TV Facebook page that we're going to be covering NAMM, what manufacturers do you want us to hear from and all that. And sometimes there's a comment that might say NAMM really should let the end users in and make it a free-for-all. And I decided to not comment on that personally for lots of reasons. One is I need to remain neutral. We are a media company, but I wanted to wait till I met with you so that you could explain what the show is for and the purpose it serves so that people don't feel left out for the wrong reasons. Does that make sense?
Well, it's a sensitive question, and luckily for you, I'm a very sensitive guy. So I think I can actually address that. But
I think you would. I knew that you'd be able to deal with this very differently.
You saw that in me, didn't you? Right off the bat. Look, NAMM represents the people who make and sell musical instruments. That's who I work for. Those are my bosses. Those companies are the ones who invest in this exhibit space. And the buyers who come from around the world, the retail stores come from around the world to be here. That's who I work for. So.
It's not a museum. It's for the buyers of your local retailer to be able to come here, see what's available to you in the marketplace. Now they find out a big part of what they're interested in is by you talking to them in the stores. So the manufacturers drive their products from the artists that use them and the feedback they get from the stores, and that's pretty much the chain of events, isn't it?
Right. That's the role of a retailer is so critical. They'll look at all this great product, order it, bring it back to their communities, and share it with their customers. I mean, and that's just not in the United States. Again, there's 100 countries of music stores here. And so that's the retailer's job, is to interface one-on-one with the customers, find out what's the best product for them. I mean, there are a lot of artists who come to this. They're working. They work for the booths. They'll sign autographs. They're helping design equipment for these companies.
They're
so
part of the innovation process, and they endorse the products. They're the spokespeople.
Now, does the occasional guest, I mean, look, there is actually an interesting process we have with the NAMM, is that if you work the show, you get a guest badge to bring your spouse, right, or your significant other. And so if you're working here for the whole week, you get to bring a spouse. So that had been the traditional role of the guest badges, and this going back into the 20s and 30s. Now, that has evolved over the years, and sometimes those guest badges do get misallocated to the guy who fixed your transmission at a great price, or your local Starbucks barista who makes your drink just right. So yeah, you do see some of the end users here. But the show is designed for those, here's my definition of those that are using this show most effectively. If you earn your primary income, if your money comes from making, selling, or using music and sound products, this is your show. So that includes professional musicians, that includes music educators, that includes the Disney buyer who outfits all the parks with their speakers, that includes the tour manager for the Rolling Stones who purchases sometimes tens of millions of dollars of gear for those tours. That includes large Indian casinos who spend, again, sometimes tens of millions of dollars on their stages and sound and lighting.
AV contractors and everything.
And people who hang the speakers in places like that. That's the ecosystem that I think is really productive for this group, because they're all different. They have different opinions on the industry. They share their insights. The industry gets stronger when all those groups come together. Now, you're talking about piano and organ, school band orchestra, you got rock and roll combo, you've got live sound touring, you've got recording. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg of the different tribes that all are represented in this ecosystem. It's the Brazilian rainforest. It's a huge ecosystem. Every little element has its part. You take one out, the thing doesn't work anymore. All these things have to work together, and my job is to manage that ecosystem so that not any one species gets too dominant and makes it ineffective for another one to survive. So by keeping the floor, we try and keep it as orderly as we can, as safe as we can, keep 95,000 registered attendees moving around and fed and entertained and educated through all the courses that are involved. There's so much education here. I figure if we keep doing that right, then the industry is going to just thrive, because there's so many beautiful, bright people here. They don't need me to help invent new products. They need us, NAMM, and our staff to present this platform. The platform allows all these brilliant people to come together, and then great things happen. That makes sense?
Absolutely. That makes sense, right? Everything on Drum Talk TV makes sense, especially when you have Joe Lamond, the CEO and president of NAMM, right here on Drum Talk TV. Drummer first, but man has to earn a living, so president, CEO of NAMM.
Can I tell you one favorite NAMM moment that happened?
Oh, please, yeah.
This week on Friday night?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's just something you can tell. It's a family channel.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think it just epitomizes, first of all, NAMM is also an association that takes the proceeds from this show and all year long lobbies for music education, works with policymakers. We fund research that links music with increased brain power and student success, and then we share that with everybody so more students have access to music education. That's our number one goal all around the year, and it comes from the proceeds from the show. But back to my story. Friday night at NAMM, show closes. We've been working hard all day. The show is busy. At 6 o'clock on this big, beautiful stage, I got to introduce Sheila E.
Right.
And her band was unbelievable. From there, I went to our Tech Awards, Technical Excellence and Creativity, where one of my dearest idols, Hal Blaine, was inducted into the Tech Hall of Fame.
He was the first in our Legends series, by the way.
By Chad Smith and Jim Keltner. And so I'm hanging out with those guys and a dozen other drummers who were there to pay tribute to Hal. I went from the Tech Awards over to a Zoom corporate party. Zoom makes recorders and stuff. And it was a tribute to Sly and the Family Stone. Stevie Wonder's band was the band, and then they had different artists coming up and singing. I got to play drums on Everyday People.
Oh,
and
wow.
Sly Stone came in at that moment.
Oh, wow.
So I got to play drums with this unbelievable band on Everyday People. Then I ran back to the Tech Awards in time to see my old boss, Todd Rundgren, get inducted. Well, he won the Les Paul Award and gave a great speech and then did a blazing set with Prairie Prince on drums.
Wow.
That was all before 10 o'clock.
Wow.
That's NAMM. That's NAMM.
Wow.
So-
Joe, thanks so much for coming on Drum Talk TV. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for enlightening our audience, not just what it's for, but the history of it and what comes out of the proceeds and everything, because that's the most important thing. That's great.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Dan Schindler with Joe Lamond here on Drum Talk TV at NAMM 2014.